Hello. Welcome back. It is Sunday, January 25th, 2026. You made it
Other week.
another week down. Hopefully you've got some coffee, maybe you're on a run, or maybe you're just, hiding from your family for 20 minutes. Whatever you're doing, thanks for letting us tag along.
It's great to be here. Seeing that date, January 2026, it really hits you. We are deep into the late 20s now.
We really are.
The future isn't coming. It's pretty much just here.
It is. And honestly, it's a little less flying cars and a little more fixing the stuff that annoys me. We're looking at a stack of stories today that feels strangely settled. We have a tech giant that's been winning for almost 20 years, a social media drama that's finally over, and a messaging feature that I have personally prayed for since about 2018.
It does feel like the dust is settling, doesn't it? If you look at the broad strengths of the news today, specifically drawing from some of the reports on global rankings, the theme isn't chaos.
Right.
It's not disruption in that aggressive break-everything sense. It's stabilization.
Stabilization. That sounds nice, but also maybe a little boring.
I knew you were going to say that. But think about it. Boring usually means things are working. We're seeing companies doubling down on what they own, refining how things work, and finally closing the loop on some massive geopolitical headaches.
Okay, fair enough. If boring means my apps don't crash and I don't have to worry about my favorite video platform getting banned, I'll take boring.
Exactly.
Let's get into it. We have to start with the big one, the report from Fortune regarding the world's most admired companies.
The annual report card of the corporate world.
Exactly. And at the top of the list again is Apple. For the 19th year in a row, 19 years. That is just ridiculous. I mean, think about what you were doing 19 years ago.
I was probably struggling with a flip phone and T9 texting.
Right, and Apple was number one then, and they are number one now. But I have to play devil's advocate here. Does this actually mean they're the best company? Or is this just inertia? Is it just a habit for these executives to check the Apple box because, well, it's Apple?
That's the cynical view. And it's a valid question.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the methodology here. This isn't a popularity contest on Twitter or Reddit.
Yeah.
This is a survey of about 3,000 executives, directors, and analysts. These are the people who run the competitors. They are the ones losing sleep over what Apple does.
So it's essentially a peer review.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's peer review at the highest level. If you run a car company or a software firm or a logistics business, you look at Apple's supply chain, their cash flow, their brand loyalty, and you have to respect it. You don't hold that spot for 2 decades by just coasting.
Right.
If they had slipped, if the products became garbage or the service fell apart, those 3,000 executives would be the first to smell blood in the water.
Okay, so they still have the street cred, but why? What are they doing in 2026 that keeps them there? Because I feel like every year people say, oh, the new iPhone is boring, it's the same as last year.
Well, that leads us directly to the other piece of news regarding Apple, the rollout of iOS 26. The source material highlights this update specifically, and I think it explains the why. They mentioned 4 new features in this update.
Right, the source says these features are designed to make daily tasks, and I'm quoting here, easier and faster. But they don't give us a ton of detail on the technicals. So help me out here. What does easier and faster actually look like in 2026?
So, based on the trajectory we've seen, easier and faster in iOS 26 isn't about flashy new icons. It's about removing friction. One of the big pushes we're seeing is likely what we call predictive intent.
Predictive intent. That sounds like the phone is reading my mind.
In a way, it is. Instead of you opening an app, finding the menu, and clicking a button, the OS is anticipating the action. For example, if you have a meeting on your calendar at 2:00 p.m. and it's 1:59 p.m., the phone doesn't just show you a notification. It probably presents a single button that says Join Video Call right on the lock screen.
No digging.
No digging at all.
Okay, I see. So it's cutting out the 3 taps it takes to get to the thing I obviously want to do.
Precisely. And another element of this easier and faster idea is likely something like deep system caching or universal undo. Imagine typing an email, then switching to a notes app, then switching to a message. Easier means the system holds your place and your draft state perfectly across all those contexts without reloading.
Okay, see, that's the stuff I love.
It's not sexy marketing, but it saves you seconds, dozens of times a day.
I don't need a hologram projector. I just need to not lose my draft when I switch apps to check a tracking number.
And that is precisely why they are number one for 19 years. They focus on that quality of life layer. While other companies might be trying to launch a VR headset that costs you dinner, Apple is making sure that when you hit send, it actually sends.
So the strategy isn't wow, it's reliability.
Reliability is the ultimate luxury, and iOS 26 seems to be doubling down on that.
All right, speaking of reliability, or rather the total lack of it for the last few years, we have to talk about TikTok.
The soap opera that never ends. Or, well, maybe it finally did.
Seriously, I feel like for the last 4 or 5 years, every headline has been, TikTok is getting banned. No, it's not. Maybe it is. It's been exhausting.
It really has.
But the news we have says, this is it. The uncertainty is officially over.
It's a massive milestone. The headline is clear. The future of TikTok in the US is now confirmed.
And the magic bullet was this US ownership deal. Can you walk me through this? Because ownership can mean a lot of things. Did they just sell the whole thing? Is it a partnership?
Right, so let's simplify it. Imagine TikTok as a house. For years, the US government's issue was that the landlord lived in a different country, one they didn't trust with the keys to the front door.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
They were worried the landlord could come in and snoop around, or change the locks, or listen to conversations.
So they wanted to evict the tenant because they didn't like the landlord.
Exactly. What this new agreement and US ownership structure does is effectively transfer the deed of the house, specifically the US house, to a domestic entity. The source mentions the platform will operate under a different structure.
Okay.
This likely means that while the brand is global, the operation in the US is now legally and technically severed from the overseas parent company.
So the data stays here, the algorithm is managed here, and the keys are held by US executives.
That's the crux of it. It satisfies the regulators because the chain of command now ends in the US, not in Beijing.
But for the average user, some kid doing a dance challenge or a small business selling candles, does the app look different? Does it feel different?
Not at all. And that's the beauty of the deal. To the user, it's invisible. But for the business of TikTok, it's everything.
Right.
The source emphasizes that this ends a period of uncertainty. Think about the creators. If you build a career on TikTok, you've been living in fear that your workplace would burn down tomorrow.
Oh, totally. I know people who are trying to frantically move their followers to YouTube or Instagram because they were terrified.
Exactly. Advertisers were scared to spend money. Hiring was probably a nightmare. Come work for us. We might be illegal in 6 months.
Yeah, not a great pitch.
This deal removes that existential threat. It stabilizes the entire creator economy attached to the platform.
So we have Apple stabilizing our daily workflow and TikTok stabilizing its right to exist. But I want to move to something that stabilizes my mental health.
I have a feeling I know what this is.
We need to talk about WhatsApp, because there is an update here that feels like it was written specifically for me. The source says, new members joining a WhatsApp group can now see previous discussions.
It is such a simple sentence, but the implications are huge for group dynamics.
Okay, let me paint a picture for you. You know my Aunt Linda, right?
I feel like I know Aunt Linda from your stories.
So my family decides to plan a reunion. They start a WhatsApp group, but they forget to add me for the first 3 days. By the time I get added, there are 400 messages. They've already fought about the location, they've decided on a potluck menu, and someone has stormed out of the group and come back.
And you just walk into complete silence, having no idea what just happened?
Yes. I'm standing in the digital doorway asking, so, are we bringing potato salad? And everyone yells at me because they decided against potato salad 2 days ago. It's humiliating.
It's a classic missing context problem.
Yeah.
Before this update, adding someone to a group was like pushing them onto a stage in the middle of the third act of a play and expecting them to know their lines.
Exactly. So how does this actually work? Is it just open season on the group's history?
Well, the source notes a very specific detail. Current users can share recent messages. This is interesting because of how WhatsApp works. It's end-to-end encrypted.
Oh, right. Security.
Right. So technically, your phone can't see messages sent before you joined because you didn't have the encryption key at that time.
Yes.
So this update implies a secure way for the existing members to basically re-encrypt and hand over the recent history to the new person. It's a trust-based sharing of context. It bridges that gap so you aren't flying blind.
It's basically an onboard ramp into the conversation.
Yes. And if you think about it in a work context, not just Aunt Linda, it's vital. Imagine joining a project team late. You need to see the last 24 hours of decisions to be useful.
Oh, for sure.
This removes the friction of onboarding someone into a conversation.
Friction. That's the word of the day, isn't it? Apple removing friction from tasks, WhatsApp removing friction from context.
It really is. It's all about flow.
Okay, so we've covered the software and the platforms, but I want to shift gears to hardware. Because there's a launch mention that I think is really telling about the global market. We're talking about the brand Infinix.
Yes, the Infinix Note Edge.
Right. So they launched this phone in the Note series, and the specs mentioned are a curved display and 5G technology. Now, stop me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Note series usually their mid-range line?
It is. And that is exactly why this story matters. If we went back in time maybe 4 or 5 years, a curved display was the absolute peak of luxury. You only saw that on a $1,200 Samsung or a top-tier flagship.
Absolutely. It was a status symbol.
It was. If your screen waterfalled over the edge, you were living in the future, and you paid for it.
And now,
in 2026, we are seeing those features migrating into the Note category, which is generally much more affordable. This is the democratization of luxury tech.
it's the trickle-down effect, but supercharged.
And look at the market context. This is a launch in Bangladesh. This is a massive, rapidly developing market. The fact that 5G is a headline feature there tells you about the infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You don't sell 5G phones if there's no network. It implies that high-speed connectivity is becoming the baseline standard globally, not just in pockets of New York or London.
That's so true. We often get very US-centric or Eurocentric when we talk about tech. But if a mid-range phone in Bangladesh is rocking a curved AMOLED screen and 5G, that raises the floor for everyone, doesn't it?
It forces the big guys, the Apples and Samsungs, to push even further. If I can get a premium-looking, fast device for a fraction of the price from Infinix, why am I spending $1,500 on a flagship?
Yeah, the gap between budget and premium is shrinking every year.
It really is.
Huh.
The cheap phones don't look cheap anymore. They look like pieces of art. And that puts pressure on the entire industry to innovate, because good enough is now really, really good.
So let's pull this all together. We've got a pretty clear picture of January 2026 here.
We do. If I had to summarize the vibe, it's maturity.
Expand on that.
Well, just look at the stories. Apple isn't trying to wow us with gimmicks. They are refining the tool to be invisible and reliable. That's a mature product strategy.
Right.
TikTok isn't fighting for its life anymore. It accepted the regulatory reality, restructured, and secured its business. That's a mature corporate move.
And WhatsApp is acknowledging that people actually need context to communicate, fixing a problem that's been there forever.
Exactly. And Infinix is showing us that the manufacturing supply chain has matured to the point where luxury hardware is accessible to the mass market. We aren't in the Wild West of tech anymore. We're in the city planning phase.
City planning phase, I like that.
We're building roads, securing bridges, and making sure the lights stay on.
It's less exciting than a gold rush, but it's a much better place to actually live.
100%.
You know, though, before we wrap up, there is one thread here that's kind of nagging at me.
What's that?
It's about this idea of continuity. We're seeing it everywhere. WhatsApp letting new people see old messages, so the conversation is more important than who was there originally.
That's a fascinating observation, you're right.
And TikTok changing its entire ownership structure just so the app can keep running. It feels like we are prioritizing the feed over everything else.
The feed must go on.
It makes me wonder, and I want to throw this out to you, the listener, too. Are we moving into a world where digital continuity is more valuable than privacy or even origin?
That is the question. Think about it. If a platform changes its owner, does it matter to the user? If a chat history is open to newcomers, does the privacy of the original moment matter? It seems like 2026 is saying, the most important thing is that the stream never stops.
As long as the content slows, we don't care who owns the pipe or who sees the history.
We are willing to trade structure and privacy for the sake of never being interrupted.
That is a little dystopian, but also feels very true. Something to chew on while you're scrolling today.
Indeed.
Well, on that cheerful note, thank you so much for plugging into the deep dive with us. Whether you're Team Apple, Team Infinix, or just trying to figure out your family's group chat, we hope this gave you a clearer picture of the world right now.
It was a pleasure. Stay curious, everyone.
We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.